Welcome to Splice Beta. Let me read out the slides really slowly for everybody. Um, Introducing myself, Shirley, and Alan. We will point the camera at Shirley very soon. She's our wonderful producer, for those of you who don't already know. Alan, why do we do Splice?
Splice is all about the transformation of the media landscape here in Asia, especially, and we believe that media startups are the way forward, so we're here to help champion them.
And why do we do beta?
Splice Beta is this platform where we bring together the entire ecosystem of funders, of media startup entrepreneurs, journalists, all with the same view and the same dream that this is where the future is going, and we're all here to embrace it.
Yep. I'm kind of excited about the fact that we have over 40 sessions and over 40 speakers. And I'm very excited, of course, about the fact that we have a 50-50 gender balance. We don't believe in manuals. Nobody should. 5 stacks are going to be Mondays for business and strategy, Tuesdays for audience, Tuesdays for product, Wednesdays for audience and users, Thursdays for management and operations. What are Fridays for?
Fridays are media careers, which is today.
That's right. And, if you want a better version of that, all you have to do is go to splicebeta.com/program. Coming up on Monday is this amazing, legendary gentleman called Ross Settles. Ross works in Hong Kong at the University of Hong Kong, and he's going to talk about rebuilding your B2B business, your B2B media business after COVID. Nobody talks strategy as well as Ross.
We've also got Kevin Brocklin, also from MDIF, good friend of ours, and we absolutely love the work that he does at MDIF in supporting some of the media startups here. He's based in Malaysia. His whole thing is about taking you through the steps that you need to think about before you start asking for funding. A lot of startups obviously wait till the very last moment when they actually need funding and then start asking for it and realize they don't actually have the right prerequisites for it, right milestones. So this is something that's really important for those of you who are thinking about fundraising, maybe in about 6 to 12 months from now.
That's a big deal, especially because MDIF is one of our dear sponsors. Thank you so much for being in our corner. I'd like to thank Facebook Journalism Project and the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung for being our partners. Google, Luminate, and MDIF, of course, AFP, FOIO Institute, and our friends at IMS. Our technical partners are Click2View for video and Puma Podcast for all the audio stuff that we do.
And I should also add that every Friday is Google Friday. Google is sponsoring all of Fridays for us because they believe and care about where media careers are going. So thank you to Google for sponsoring Fridays. Okay, very quickly, ground rules. I'm going to zoom right through this one because you've all seen this before. If you are on social media, use the Splice Beta hashtag. Use a microphone and headphones if you are speaking. Always helps. Be in a quiet room always helps as well. The chat box is where you want to have all your conversations. Leave your comments, your questions, your links in there. Also take the opportunity to introduce yourselves. Leave your email addresses there. The whole point of beta is that everyone gets to meet and connect with each other. So leave your email addresses if you want people to get in touch with you. Put yourself on mute when you're not speaking. And if you don't, Shirley will do that for you, which is never fun. Also, all of this stuff will be available on our YouTube channel or our Facebook and our Facebook page within 24 hours, usually in the next 6 hours or so. Porn bombing has happened once. Don't worry about it. If it happens, we'll kick the person out and we'll just get on with it. Point number 8, most importantly, we're all learning this stuff and figuring out how to get through a very difficult year. So be kind, be generous.
And now for our main act, we're so proud to present Marium Chaudhry. We've been chatting to her over the course of this week, of course, in sessions and at the first session. But Marium, over to you. This is really exciting. Thank you so much for agreeing to hang out with us. Tell us about the current and tell us about your journey so far.
Thank you, guys. I just want to first give a shout out to my co-founder who's in this meeting and part of my team as well. There are a few of them joining in. Excited to see what's going on. Let me just share my screen first and then I'll start off. All right, there we go. Let's go. Okay, so when I was first asked to do this, I was still am pretty nervous about it because it's kind of difficult to look back and think about what I've learned in this past year. I mentioned a lot of things that I've learned in the past, 10, 12 years that I've been in this business, because I think that leads up to what you actually learn for a startup as well. I would encourage everyone who has a startup to do this, to look back at your career and see what you've learned, because you'll actually learn a whole lot while you actually look back. So I'm going to start off by saying this is a look back 15 lessons that I've learned when I started my own media company. It was launched in March 23rd of last year. So before I do start off, I'll tell you a little bit about myself and how I got here. I was born and raised in Karachi, Pakistan. I went to a college, studied journalism at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Shout out to anybody who's from there. Great place to study journalism. I came back, went into journalism directly, spent 12 years at Geo News, which is Pakistan's largest news channel, and it's been a great journey with them. I managed the election transmissions at the very height of my career in 2013 and in 2018 as well. And the one thing that I take immense pride in as a woman is that I took my daughter to school, to work since she was 3 months old. She's 3 years old now, so she's actually grown up with me and gone to the office every single day of her life. So that's who I am and where I've come from. I started the current a year and a half ago. I launched it in March 2019, as I discussed. And when I started, it was after the election in 2018. I kind of, and I'll show you guys a little clip. I have Insta stories that I've saved, no pictures really. My daughter was there at the event as well. This is our newsroom. That was a control room. This was the set. At that time, and you notice that all men there, we did kind of change that a little bit, introduce a lot of female analysts, and they kind of did sit in at the election transmission. There are a lot more this since that time that we've introduced for our channel as well. At that time, I noticed that there was something missing. All of the stuff we were doing was catering towards a much older audience. There was nothing for the younger audience, and the younger audience wasn't glued to their television stations. They were on their phones. They were checking results on their phones. They were seeing if their favorite leader or party was winning, but there wasn't really something that was fun and hip for them to be able to watch. So the concept was created out of that I wanted to create something for the youth. There's a concept in I think journalism, especially in Pakistan, that whatever runs in broadcast will run online. So people take their programs and put them online, expect them to work. It doesn't work like that. At least I believe it doesn't. The younger generation wants fast, snazzy, fun stuff, and they want details that are pertinent to them, and they also want it to be easy. So that was the reason why the current was created.
एक साल पहले 8 लोगों ने सोचा कि क्यों ना पाकिस्तान की न्यूज़ सीन को करंट लगा दें। एक साल के बाद एक डिजिटल न्यूज़ स्टार्टअप जो एक छोटे से कमरे से शुरू हुआ था, अब गूगल न्यूज़ इनोवेशन चैलेंज के फंड का विनर है। The Current is Pakistan's first digital startup to be funded by the Google News Innovation Challenge, and we are going to spend all that money on you. तो तैयार हैं आप, क्योंकि अब करंट लगेगा। एक साल
I apologize for that spelling mistake at the end. Didn't notice that. But in 1 year, this is what we managed to do. We started off from my parents' apartment in Lahore, where I'm living right now. It was a group of, I think, 9 at the time. I had 2 co-founders. They left after a while. My new co-founder, Mehmal, joined in as well. After that, we're a total of about 11 to 12 people, or 12 people. And we've kind of maintained that and just added 1 or 2 people over the past year. We are the fastest growing independent digital news platform. We have more than 500K followers on Facebook, hitting 75K on Instagram, 170 plus on YouTube. So we're doing really well in terms of our social media presence. People follow us, they share our interviews, they go into the millions. We won the Google News Innovation Challenge, which was amazing for us. We pitched the first membership model for Pakistan, and it was amazing because we're a year old. I mean, we didn't expect it. We did work super hard on it. We're very excited about actually doing it. And also we're the first female journalist-led platform in the country. It's just been 1 year. 2 women have run this. We have more women on the team. The men are very supportive of our women, and we've managed to come this far in a year. So how did we do it? The 15 things that I've learned that I think have brought us to where we are. These, number 1 is that you have to love what you do, and you have to be really relentless and unashamed about it. The top picture that you see is a picture of the MD's office at Geo News. Nobody's allowed to open that. I don't think he knows I took a picture of his office, But the reason why it's important is that there's a couch over there, and he was the only one who has a couch in his office because the offices are really small. I used to get the guard to open the door in the night so I could take a break there and kind of sleep a little bit when I was there overnight. I used to be at work all the time. I missed family events. I missed my nieces and my nephews grow up. But I loved what I did. I still love what I do. So if you love what you do, you're going to be willing to give up a lot for that. You have to be relentless. My daughter went to work with me. I did have a nanny, but when she wasn't there, she still went to work with me. This is her in the control room, munching on her food, watching her iPad, while I have my mic, and I'm controlling the program. This is her, me bouncing her to sleep when I finished a job interview when the HR guy was talking to the girl about her job. I took these videos because I wanted to remember this, and also because I remember the day that I kind of decided I wasn't ashamed of it anymore. I mean, there'll be times when you'll go to work as the woman and you'll be like, my daughter, I can't leave her at home, or daycare isn't, working out for me. What should I do? And they're like, well, we don't have a daycare here. What are you going to do? Take her with you or take him with you. You're there for a reason. You're there because you're good. And having a family, having kids should definitely not be something that stops us from that. Number two, you have to learn from the best. My boss does not know that I'm going to say this because he's a very good friend of mine as well. He's the one in the black shirt. His name is Moaz Ehsan. He's director of programming of Geo. And but he and the guy on the left as well, Yasser, they created an environment where I flourished. For 12 years, I loved being there because they supported me. They helped me do what I want. They taught me. They helped me do what I wanted to do as well. We ran transmissions from day in and day out, and we were always together, and we enjoyed what we did. The guy on the bottom side in the brown shirt, we'll come to him later. His name is Hamid Mir. He's a journalist, TV anchor in Pakistan, incredibly popular. But I learned a lot from him as well.
Okay, so I know that you guys asked me to talk about myself, but I would be nothing without these people over here. So I've asked them to tell us in one line what they think that they learned in the past year about being part of this media startup. So here we go. We're going to start off with Rouge. I'm going to try to flip this camera. And so here we go. This is my husband's part of the office space, and he has graciously given us a little bit on this side. So let's start off with Rouge Ali. She's our lifestyle desk person. She handles everything on the lifestyle desk. Rouge, what have you learned?
Hello, I have learned how to make things and how to give things a good twist to make it more engaging for the viewers.
Interesting. And let's go and start off on this side with Usher. Usher does our food reviews, and you can see he's doing our drama reviews now, which are immensely popular in Pakistan. He does our finance, our marketing, our HR, you name it. So Usher, आपने क्या सीखा इस पिछले साल?
मैंने जो सबसे ज़्यादा सीखा है सबसे पहले Usher एंड क्रिएटिविटी की राह में लो बजट कभी नहीं आता, और यही चीज़ हमने करंट में डे फर्स्ट से प्रूव की अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, और यही मेरी लर्निंग थी सबसे ज़्यादा.
Fantastic. Here's Javed, also known as JV. He's our cameraman, handles all the great stuff that we do. JV, आपने क्या सीखा?
मैंने ये सीखा कि किसी भी काम पे मुतमईन नहीं होना, उसको अच्छे से अच्छा करने की कोशिश करनी.
Perfect. और साथ साथ there's Ali. Ali is our graphic designer. He's making some a live session graphic right now. Ali, what have you learned?
I learned के लिमिटेड टाइम में मोर क्रिएटिविटी पैदा करना, ठीक है, और किसी भी चीज़ को बेहतर से बेहतर बनाना.
Fantastic. And this is Shahid Bhai. He actually works at a news channel in the morning, works with us part-time as well on our videos. Shahid Bhai, आपने क्या सीखा?
मैंने क्रिएटिव काम सीखा काफ़ी. हमारे क्रिएटिव डायरेक्टर से जो जुबैर भाई हैं, उनसे काफ़ी कुछ सीखा. सोशल मीडिया के हवाले से काफ़ी कुछ सीखा और अच्छा वक्त किया.
Very interesting. Zubair is our art director. He handles everything that you see on the screen. Zubair, what have you learned?
Well, I have learned a lot of things, but specifically I would say how to manage things, such limited resources and such limited teams, and that's why we are current and mashallah, in such a 1 year we are the best digital media work in Pakistan.
Yes, that's very true. And also, if I can say, he mentioned limited resources. That on that side, you can see our green cloth, which is our chroma studio, come make meeting room, which we share with a bunch of other people as well. So I'm going to go here and go to Fahad, who handles tech and data. What have you learned?
So I handle the technical aspect of this start. I believe it is good to have hardcore saleable skills, but the most important thing to make a startup successful is to have leadership skills and people's management skills.
which Fahad has learned, which is fantastic. Saman is our entertainment desk editor, and we're going to ask her, what did you learn, Saman?
Hello. I learned how to work on a budget.
Yes, in a very rather small budget. These guys over here handle their own desks. They work 24 hours a day if needed. And I hope that, and I know that they enjoy it. Abdullah is our political desk editor. What have you learned?
I have learned that planning is key and you need an efficient team to take on all the challenges.
Which is interesting because he's the only one on his team. So it's a one-man team for the political desk and the rest. Memal is our co-founder. What have you done?
Well, I've learned that it is very difficult to sustain a startup financially, but at the same time, with such a small team, which is very creative and an excellent team, we've made a huge mark. So I'm sure that we're going to be very successful, and I'm very happy and energetic about this startup.
Which I think everybody is over here, energetic and happy to be part of this startup. At least I hope so. And that's it. You guys have met the team.
So what's really important, I think the most important lesson is your team. You are nothing without your team. They are the ones that hold you up, and you also hold them up together. They are the ones who will support you in tough times. You saw almost all of them said, learn to be creative and limited resources. We really don't have much money. The startup started with my life savings, which I decided to just, take the plunge and try it off. We got no investment. We didn't look outside for anything. So it really is just me at this time. And their salaries are, almost so minimal that sometimes even I'm embarrassed that I'm paying them so little. But I love that they love what they do. I love that they're given that space, and I love that they love that they can grow there and they can try and do what they like. They're one-man person per team, and they're always constantly working and churning out content and good content and knowing what they're doing. So this is your next generation of journalists, and I think it's so important for us to be creating that younger generation of journalists and teaching them along with us, and knowing that you're nothing without who these people are. So there will be restrictions that you never thought of. I did not think of any of this. If you look at the right side, the current estimated earnings, well, that's the first amount of money that we earned, that we put on the board. It was $1.56. Google doesn't give us very much money in Pakistan, I must say, and neither does any Facebook or the rest. So shout out to you guys that please help us out here. I thought we'd be making more money. I would say at this point, just by earning from Google, YouTube, Facebook, and the rest, we probably don't even break half way through. We're still running on a loss, which I think does happen with startups anyway. So it's not that I'm not that worried at this point. But we look for advertising when we find it. But the problem is with a new startup, people rather pay all the heavy lifters, the news channels that have their websites, right? So you still have to build that credibility and have that time span of people, come to you a lot more. And then because you've spent that time to create your brand, even though we have created in a year, but I still think to compete with the big wigs, you need some time. We did these post-its on our window. When we have money, what will we do? And for Uruj and JB, the cameraman, we will buy a car for the current so that we don't have to walk, because they had to walk a few times. We also had a lawsuit against us by a politician who said that we ran the wrong story, which is not true. We ran the right story, but he took it back. But that's something we have on our wall as well. So there are restrictions that you would never think would happen at that time, but a lot of them have to do at this point for us with not being able to generate enough money as we would have liked. But you learn to overcome them. Like everybody said, be creative in a limited resource. Like I showed you, we work in my husband's office. There's 3 startups together. We have a small little corner, but we managed to make it work. We spent this is the picture on top of us in editing the interview of Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, who is a potential for future prime minister. He is former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto's son. He gave us an interview talking about his life partner. And we worked all night on that interview. Flew to Karachi, shot it, came back, worked all 2 or 3 nights on that interview, and then finally got it out. And it was so huge. It was covered by every single news channel and by the papers that this new startup has come up and they've managed to make such a bang. So you learn to overcome it, regardless of how limited your resources are. Sometimes you have to work with them. I mentioned the guy in the brown Harman Mir. You can see his picture in the vigil down there. In 2014, he was shot on his way to the office in Karachi. I was his producer at the time. He messaged me while he was being shot, saying, I'm attacked. And I called him and he picked up the phone and he told me where he was. And we traced him down, and he was shot, I think, 9 times, 6 bullets in his body. He survived, but it was a very, very difficult time for us. And since then, it's been very tough for Pakistan as it is. There are a lot of you can see the news clippings on the side that we hover above the mute button. Death threats and media watchdogs are they slam brazen censorship in Pakistan. I think for Pakistani journalists, there are many times that we do things that we have to make decisions that we're not comfortable with, but we learn to live with them because that's what you have to do sometimes. And we learn to work around them and work with them as well. So again, we're at the money. But the reason why that's important is that a business plan is imperative. You need to have a business plan. I didn't have one. So I learned that I need to have one. My thinking when I launched it was I researched for 6 months. I didn't really research this aspect, but I learned that I needed to. I thought that I'll spend 1 year, build my credibility, and then bang, I'm going to do so well. That didn't really happen. I should have started off and made my business plan and gone along with it. I was very lucky that Splice Beta also did fund us in a very tough time, that Google has given us a fund for a new project. So we are safe and we're good, and we'll hopefully generate more. But this is something that's very important, especially for media startups, where it does take that much time. So keep a job, any job, because that's my note. When we have money, I will finally get a salary, because you won't be making a salary. So you'll be spending your savings and you'll be like, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? I'm just going to lose all my money. So keep a job, any kind of money, keep it coming in. So be patient. This is a long haul. Okay, it took us a year to get that 100,000 subscribers on that silver button that we got. It'll take you time to generate content that is explosive, but it will happen. If you persevere, it will happen and you will get there, but it will take a lot of time. This is not like a fast thing. It's going to take 5-6 years, even more than that, for a journalism startup to do well. So don't be a startup. Don't start a startup unless your gut is based on experience. This is very important. I think a lot of people have a gut idea and they have an idea and they believe that it can work. For me, I think a media startup in journalism, especially, you need to be a journalist. You need to have experience, or you need to work with somebody who is. These two images that you see, the first one on the side with the man with the President Zardari, that's him with the puggy on his head. That is a video that we did, was very anti-opposition, which is opposition his party. And the ruling government, PTI, their social media account tweeted that out, saying that, look at this video, it's showing you that this is what they're about. And then on the other side, you have an editorial that we wrote when the ruling government was very upset with us because we did a story on how their quarantine facilities weren't up to mark in Peshawar and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So that's based on experience. You have to know how to report, what to report. You have to know how to balance it out. Does a balance happen in one story? Does it happen because you do an anti and a pro, an anti and a pro? For me, it's been very, very important to have a balanced news platform. I think people are incredibly polarized. They have polarized points of view, and news channels have become polarized as well. So for me, it was always very important to have a place where people from all points of view could come in, where we would give you the good news and the bad news, regardless of who was in government and who was in the opposition. And that's something that we have maintained, and that's something that we will continue to maintain, because it's very important that everybody comes together and has that discussion. And that can only happen when they believe that you are unbiased. Okay, so think big and never ever hesitate to ask. So this is very important. What you just saw was a small promotional video that we shot with this guy who's obviously a mad scientist in a lab. That isn't really a mad scientist. That's Pakistan's science and tech minister, the guy in the brown clothes, Fawad Chaudhry. We asked him that, look, you've become the science minister. You want to make the science ministry cool and hip. Are you willing to do this interview in a science lab in the ministry? And, maybe you could be like a mad scientist and he asks you these questions. And you know what? He said yes. He was willing to do it. He was a great sport about it. So you have to ask. If you think people are going to say, no, why are you asking me this question? I'm never going to do this. You will never know unless you ask. And what's the worst they can do is say no, right? So we've done a lot of really interesting stuff with a lot of people that we thought would never open up to what we asked them to do. And they've obviously said yes. This went so viral. There's so many memes on him and he loves it. But because of the fact that he came out like such an interesting guy who was willing to talk about science in a very interesting way. Okay, but you always have to base your instincts on analytics and surveys and research. I can't stress about this enough. I spent 6 months before we launched just researching, reading up on international trends. Reuters is a great place where you can get a lot of good research. They do it yearly wise. And then analytics is very important. You should always look at analytics. There's one thing that I've learned in news is that yes, you have to deliver news and you have to be impartial and balanced, but you also have to deliver it in a way that people want to see it. If you don't do that, you're going to lose that viewer. Ratings are important. It's not to say that they're not isn't realistic. So we did surveys and we did in-person surveys with like students. We reached out to them. We took them out for lunch and we asked them what they like to see and made them answer questions. We still do that with our membership model. With that's what we're kind of investigating what people want to see, and we're going to do unique things based on what they want. So generally people say that, look, we have to just be balanced and deliver news the way that it is. I think you can be balanced and deliver news the way that people want. But that you'll only know once you actually look at your data, because you might think that people want something a certain way, but that actually your data will show you that that's not what really is working. So as a founder of a startup, your biggest battle will actually be with loneliness. It's been a year and a half, so I can't say it's been that bad, but there are times when you're like, why am I doing this? Am I doing the right thing? You will burn out. You're working in a situation in journalism where things can get very tough and very difficult and can kind of be heavy on your head. It's your money, you're the founder. People aren't really going to know what you're going through. Your family will, and they will support you, but they'll never actually feel what you are feeling, especially because you think that I put in so much and I'm not getting as much as I had hoped. And so there's that pessimism that kind of sits on your head. And I think that happens to most founders at some point in their lives. But then what you do is you divert that energy and remember you're not alone. So at the top, you can see an Instagram handle. That's my food handle called You Don't Know My Food. So please follow me if you want. I started this about 2-3 months ago when I was going through a rough patch. And it was just more diverting my energy in that I love to cook, love food, love talking about it all the time. So I started and kind of tried to make the negative into the positive, even if it wasn't within my own work. It was something that still trying to generate that energy and make it into a positive thing. When I was doing the dishes during Corona every night, I was listening to How I Built This, the podcast with Guy Raz. I absolutely love this podcast. I would recommend it to everybody to listen to the whole series, which I did. You meet founders who talk and say exactly what you're thinking. And you actually feel like you're not alone because they are going through, or they have been through what you are going through, and then they have come out successful. So it really does help you feel like you have support. The Originals is a great book by Adam Grant. I'm almost done with it, and I loved it as well. It's like how nonconformists move the world, and it actually does make you, it inspires you with what people are doing. And in turn, you have to remember those who inspire you. That's a picture of Irene. She works at Google. I was the Google Columbia Fellow. She picked us. That's all of us outside Columbia Journalism School. Take those opportunities. Definitely go in and take whatever opportunity you can get to learn. She introduced us, taught us so much to different speakers, and we learned so much from her. And it's truly inspiring. That's a picture of Dr. Frederick. I know I'm pronouncing this wrong. Ferdet. I'm not really sure. I can write this thing down. He works at Google as well. He's a chief innovation evangelist. And he gave a session that I will never forget at Google. And when I asked him what kind of books should we read, he said, read children's books. And I said, okay, can you recommend some? And he recommended one called What Do You Do With an Idea? It's by Kobe Yamada. And I bought them, like his series that he has, and I read them to my daughter. And when I read them now, I read them differently. And he's right. Children's books will teach you so much that and they're so simple that you won't even realize unless you read them with that eye of wanting to learn.
So in the end, I know that I must always remember that I didn't become a journalist for the money or the fame. I became one to uphold the truth, change mindsets, and promote democratic values, make news worth something. I don't do it for me. I know my team doesn't do it for them. We do it for each other and the people that follow us, that learn from us, And I do it for my child, so she knows that her mother is changing her country and trying to make it a more democratic and open place for her to live. That's a lesson we should all, every journalist, everywhere in the world, never forget.
So that's it. That's my presentation. I know it's a lot more emotional. I was trying to make it a little bit more serious and to the point and factual, but I felt that this is actually what I've learned in my career. So.
You're right about emotional. I'm now recovering not from my tacos for dinner, but from your presentation. That was amazing. When did you know you wanted to be a journalist? I mean, what age?
This is like a very interesting question. When I went to Chapel Hill, I didn't know what I wanted to be. So my sophomore year, I changed my major 5 times. I went to genetics, I went to psychology, I went to a lot of different stuff. And then I just said, maybe I like journalism. I should go into journalism. So I started taking some courses, and then my dad said, enough. Like literally, it was my dad. He said, you need to pick one. Just pick one. And I said, okay. So I just, at that time, I had come back for, I think it was winter break, and I knew somebody who worked at Geo News. I actually interned there when I was a student as well. So she said, why don't you come in and see if you like it? And I liked it. So it was sophomore year in college. Yeah.
What I really liked about your presentation was just the honesty in which you applied, to it. And I thought also what was really remarkable was how you talked about the people around you who made you, what you are today. I have a lot of respect for people who talk like that. I think it's really amazing about the friends and the relationships that you cultivated over time, but also the fact that that gratitude really comes across. Did you always have this? Yeah.
I don't know. I think I started having this past year. I don't think I had this until I realized that I was running my own thing. I think my boss might have it, or maybe won't admit that again. But I think he might know that that's what I needed. But I think I really, truly treasure this team now, because they'll take over. If you're in a tough spot, they're always there. And it's amazing to me because they're so young. They're not, they're not older journalists. They're young people. And I love the fact that they love it. Like there are times, and I know Memal is also on this call. We were sitting together a few days ago, and we were a little bit disillusioned about where we are and what we do. And the team was recording a drama review, which is the TV series, and I could hear them laughing. And I said, I think we do it for them more than anything else. And so there are moments where you kind of do feel that, yeah.
Sorry, I'm seeing a dear friend of Splice jump into the chat box, and I just want to quote Julia Winterflood. She's saying that was one of the sharpest, most articulate and clear-eyed presentations I've ever had the pleasure of learning from.
Thank you.
And I completely agree.
Clear-eyed is definitely the right word, but
yeah.
So what was that moment when you decided, okay, screw it, I'm going to do this? Surely you must have thought about this for a long time and going back and forth, right?
I'm a very indecisive person, even though it might not seem in this presentation. My first co-founder, her name is Nadia Malik. She was actually, when I ran the election at Geo, she and I ran it together. She was the content head. I was the one presenting, managing the presentation. I spoke to, and we were in the office together one day, and I spoke to her about it. I said, I think we need this. And she's like, I think you're right. And I said, she's like, do you want to do it? And I said, I have the money, I can do it, but I don't know if I want to. I was very indecisive. She said, you know what? I'm coming to your house every day at 9 in the morning. At 9 in the morning, this girl was at my house every single day. And I was like, I don't know. She pushed me into it. And I will never, ever forget her for that. So that gratitude that I feel for her, because I needed that push. And I actually believe, I'm a spiritual person. I actually believe people do come together and they do kind of complement each other in that sense. But you need that push. You need people to push you, especially with a media startup, because it's not a one-person game. It has to be, it's like a multi-person game. One person can't manage it. I would highly not recommend anybody to do it alone. So for me, it was her. She was the reason why I managed to do it.
I want to ask a question by Timmy. Timmy asks, can you talk about how you recruit and keep a team when you can't offer them the usual trappings and resources of a more established company? For instance, to balance out low salaries, do you offer equity to the journals?
Well, I haven't yet, and I know my team is on this, so they might hear this now. My co-founder does have equity. She and I both don't draw a salary. But when what's interesting is that we recruited all of them on Facebook. There was a group on Facebook called Digital Journalists of Pakistan. So we just put out a message saying, "Hey, we're a new startup. Do you want to join us and meet us? It's on news and stuff like that." We all met at Gloria Jeans, which is like a coffee brand, and that's where we held our interviews. And that's literally how I selected my team. The main art director was selected. Mehmal knew him from a TV channel, and a couple of other people here and there. But the editorial staff was all done, like said yes to at Gloria Jeans over a cup of coffee. How do we, I don't know if I can open this up, but I know that Abdullah Zafar, I can see his name. He's our political desk editor who you met. Maybe he would like to say a word or so on why he sticks around.
Please open it up. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Abdullah, all yours.
Hello everyone, this is Abdullah Zafar, and I have been working at the Current for as long as all of us have met. And probably the major reason why I took that risk of joining a startup was that the media in Pakistan is ruined. The news channels, the newspapers, we've been working in the field for quite some time, but uh, it was just terrible. We uh, we don't get salaries, we are threatened, we are bullied by our bosses. So I was like, okay, this looks like something young, so why not take the risk? And I remember my family coming up to me and saying, do you really want to do it? You are working at one of the biggest newspapers, and the Current doesn't even exist. So I told them that I think I still have time and I can take that risk. So I did take it, and I think it was Mariam's efforts, and regardless of the many fights we've had, uh, regardless of the many problems we've faced and everything, it just stuck, and it feels like home now.
That kind of related to, thank you, Abdullah. That was amazing. We've got to get you back on Splice Beta at some point. I like the way you tell a story. Christine, can I ask you to unmute yourself and ask your question? I love your question, and it seems to be related to what Abdullah and Mariam are talking about.
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you so much, Mariam. This was really, really inspiring. And my name is Christine. I work for the Thompson Foundation. We have a program in Pakistan with our local partner, the Tribal News Network in KP province.
Yeah.
So I'm learning more and more about Pakistan. And we try to promote and encourage women to first produce news, but then also to consume news. And that's why my question was, do you see a change in how young people view the media in general, but then also a career in journalism, because particularly for women, there's a lot of social stigma attached to it. And then just, you've mentioned your digital startup, obviously, and from TNN, we know that they reach an audience in the Middle East, so the diaspora audience through their Facebook and their YouTube channels. So I was just wondering if you have any numbers. And,
so the last one I'll address first. It's interesting that our second highest reach out of Pakistan is India. So we have a lot of Indian followers that do follow us, and then Middle East, yes, of course. I don't really have the exact numbers, but it is at number 3 that we're at for the Middle East. In terms for women, for me, I feel like for me it was easier because I, foreign educated. I came into the business. I did, I did manage to push my way ahead. I think it is much harder for women, especially if they're not on the screen. If they're, producers or researchers and the rest of. It is much harder for them. There are more women in the field, so they are coming in. And the main problem that I feel for women is that women get stuck. And I don't mean this in a general comment, but I feel like they don't ask for what they deserve. And because we don't tend to do that, myself included, at many times, we kind of do stay back and we don't push ahead. It is when it comes to social stigma, I think that's lesser. I think that for Tribal News Network, that might be a lot because of the area that you guys are working in. It might be very difficult for you to find women. But I know that in the cities, it is much easier. Women are coming out, they're looking for jobs. and they're applying. I know that there's a program that on Geo News that the whole team is women. The anchor, the producer, the researchers, they're all women. So it is increasing. It is hopefully going to get better. But again, it's hard, especially in the area that you're working in. And the only way it can get easier is if the men give the women space. And I think that takes some time, especially with family support. It's very important. I remember my first, I'm droning on a bit, but I remember my first HR interview that I had at a different channel. I was asked, do you cook or do you help your mother in the kitchen? And I said, I do cook, but I don't have my mother in the kitchen. And like, are you married? Are you going to have a problem staying late? Are you going to have a problem coming early? And I remember when I started interviewing people at that, and then, the HR guy had similar questions that I was working on. I said, why do you need to ask these questions? Why do you need to ask them? And he's like, we need to ask the question about, are you willing to work late? Are you willing to, do you need a pick and a drop from your house? Because these are important questions for these women. They might need that pick and drop. Their parents might say that sorry, and their husbands might say that you can't work late. So these things, then it's not like we don't hire them, but we take that into account. This girl can only be here at that certain amount of time. But slowly, I think those things will change. As the biggest change is more women coming in. There's no bigger change than that.
Yeah. Can I kind of switch gears to something a bit more, I guess, boring? Can we talk a little bit about revenue and where you think that this is going? I know this is all very new for you as a startup, but given how tough this year is and what the next year could look like, what are your plans around funding and also building revenue streams?
So again, my biggest mistake was not getting somebody who's very savvy in business. I'm still looking for a co-founder that handles the business side. Anybody interested? I'm more than willing. It's just because that's not my forte. I'm very bad with numbers. I'm very bad with dealing with business, which I think is incredibly important. You have to have somebody who manages that business plan and takes it step by step. I personally thought that we would make more revenue off of social media. I think a view in Pakistan is worth almost nothing. And an American view, like if somebody from America is viewing my content, I'm going to get money. If somebody from Pakistan I'm not going to get that money. So the membership model is our priority because it is funded. So we do have that money to kind of really come out with a bang from Google. Thank you so much to Google to come out with that bang and actually see if that creates an alternate revenue stream. So that's something we're really focusing on and dedicating a lot of our energy on. Otherwise, I think that ads obviously are very important for us. Sponsored videos are very important for us. We do those. When we do get them, it's very good. We make a lot of money at that time. But obviously that does dry up, especially during Corona times. Again, also I felt that people rather give them to more settled and bigger news networks than us. But I think the membership model for us is going to be the next big thing. If that doesn't work, then we're going to have to switch gears and innovate a little bit more and figure out where to get the money from.
What about more products? I'm curious, do you structure your content in terms of shows? Do you have other stories? Do you have, how are you packaging and how are you thinking of productizing for different audiences?
So that's something that we are working on. We do have a lot of content. Again, the first year for me was the time to build credibility. If you build this platform, build credibility, get those viewers in, and then start to kind of monetize. My mistake was I didn't think that they would work together. I thought maybe I would have to do one thing and then lead to the other thing. So we do have a tech review, which is fantastic, which I think is very sponsorable also with products. We are working on that. We do that twice a month. We do food reviews. They're very sponsorable as well. Obviously, as a journalism platform, we have to say this is sponsored content. We get approached a lot that, don't say this article is sponsored, don't say this video is sponsored. Can you add, this and that here? But, I'm sorry, we're a journalism platform. We can't do that. So we lose a lot of revenue on that side. So we are playing around with products, especially food reviews. Tech reviews are very big. News isn't really sponsorable. I don't know if it's everywhere in the world, but at least in Pakistan, it's very difficult to find somebody who sponsors an interview of a politician, regardless of if you're asking a political question or not. So products, yes, it's important that we go down that road, and we're working towards that, hopefully. Again, I'm looking for another co-founder who's more business savvy than I am.
We've got to find a way to build that mentorship or that network. And that's actually kind of related to a question that I have. What can we do as a community to help support not just you, but also to help raise a generation of female media entrepreneurs across this region? What's missing?
We need to network with each other. What I loved about Irene when she brought all of us together for this fellowship is, again, we had a lot of women. I'm in touch with all of them. I think Lynn is one of them who's presented in the morning as well for the membership model. So she's really helped as well for me. So that connection is important. We have to, again, make sure we push the women forward. We should maybe, again, create an Asian network where women come together and they kind of talk to each other and see how we can help each other, maybe collaborate with each other. If we're all startups, we're so easy and open to collaborating with each other. Like I said, India is a great platform for us. Also, we do cover a lot of Indian content because it works in Pakistan. People enjoy it, they like it. India just did a Pakistani series actually for one of their streaming platforms that was produced by a Pakistani and made with Pakistani actors. So that's so there's stuff that we should actually work towards and collab. I think collaborations are going to be great. If it's something concrete and then not just talk, it should be collaborations with each other.
Good point. Yeah. I was wanting to add on to what Alan said about mentorships. We have a mentorship program sort of running in the background of Splice Beta, and it'd be interesting to find a mentor for you, again, if that's something you would want.
100%.
And if you can, Mariam, it would be cool to see if you can come to Ross Settle's chat.
Yes.
Nobody understands media business like Ross. That man is a brain on legs. Pat Bird, you know what I'm talking about. He's amazing. But I'm curious. It's exciting to hear that you're putting out an open call for a co-founder. That is a very exciting thing indeed.
Hey, I mean, you never know where you have to ask, right? What I said in the presentation. If you don't ask, you'll never know. So maybe the next great co-founder is in this meeting or somebody listening to this conversation. So it's you have to ask.
And I know exactly who to call in here, Pat Bird. I see you nodding, and I see that this is something that you've thought a lot about. Both in terms of like finding the right co-founder support, but also collaboration and bringing together a network. What are your thoughts, and what have you seen elsewhere?
So I'd love to talk more about this, and if you guys need, if you need a mentor to bounce ideas off of, sign me up. Tessa's on this call, and I'll volunteer her as well. At MDIF, we're very much about helping and collaborating, and we're not selfish in the things that we learn, because we're learning always from people such as you. By the way, great presentation. There are some really exciting organizations that are doing exactly what you're talking about, bringing women together all over and helping them collaborate. There's one fantastic that I just joined as part of a board member called Chicas Poderosas, which translates into Powerful Chicks, that is helping very heavy on tech, very heavy on working with journalists around the world to exactly what was discussed earlier. Women, being involved in not only creating content, but the consumption of news. So let's do an Asian version. Let's figure that out. Why not? I mean, I can put everybody together with the founder, Mariana Santos, who's incredible. I think Alan and Rashad might already know them. So,
but they're wonderful.
Definitely,
sign us up. We want to help.
And speaking of signing up, Mariam, you just got a mentorship offer from Pat Bird, the legendary Pat Bird.
Thank you so much.
She has never offered anything of the sort to us.
That's right. When she knows we need it.
We're right now burning up with envy. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you so much. I'm going to be bombarding you. You said yes. No. Thank you.
I'm not an expert, but I hang out with experts. So I'll put you together, and I've done a couple.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pat. Listen, I'm going to have to wrap this up. I want to actually thank everybody for coming, because we are kind of 5 minutes out. Are we good? Unless
someone's got one last question before we wrap up the evening.
Last question for Mariam. Anybody wants to pitch for being a co-founder? We've already got a mentor. Come on. I see my friend Rajesh Tahil there. This guy knows media like nobody else.
Exactly.
This guy runs India's largest podcast network. I'm just saying. you know. So
Very nice
anyway,
people.
putting it out there. Janicia Alves is a huge brain. But anyway, oh, look at that. D of Plates Magazine says, I'd be keen to collab print and food theme thing. So
Food,
you might
I mean,
have somebody.
100%. I'm just going to put my email address down. So yes, definitely.
Yes.
Food is like.
Good point.
I think one thing, everything unites every single person is food, regardless of where you're from, what you believe in. It's food. So. Yeah.
Wonderful. Great. I see you put your email address out there. You know, everybody else, get ready to spam her with either food photos or offers for collaboration. All right. And with that, let's round up the night. Thank you, everybody. It's been a wonderful week.
Thank you so much.
This is session number.
This was session number something.
It's been a long week.
Yeah, it has been a long week. A lot of tacos, but that was really something, Marium. I'm still recovering. That was very moving. I loved how you talked about your team. Your team is inspiring. It was amazing to meet them. Thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you.
And Shirley, I'm talking to our producer Shirley, who knows that I was moaning about your presentation. She's like, she's doing something in Canva. What is this presentation? She's going to run a video. Oh my God, how do we do this? And then I see this thing and it has seriously inspired me. It is amazing.
Canva forever.
No, seriously, that was really something.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, guys, for the opportunity. It's a fantastic opportunity. Thank you.
I want to thank I'm going to do also the job of thanking our sponsors. Facebook Journalism Project, thank you for standing up for us. Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, thanks for being in our corner. Google, Luminate, MDIF, Pat Bird, AFP, FOIO Institute, and IMS, our dear friends at IMS. Thank you also for Click to View for producing these videos that we put on Facebook and YouTube, and to Puma Podcast for doing our little audio stuff and our podcast.
That's right. And with that, have a great weekend, everybody. We will see you on Monday.